And we have Kokoro being like, you're cringy. Like, who does this? And Uta owns it. She has the confidence, and that goes to show you that it's only cringe if there's no confidence. Mahalo, and welcome back to another review of unveiled Precure episode 7. After a week of hiatus, we are freed and we get this episode, and oh my goodness, what a wait it was worth, because this is a good character introductory episode. But nonetheless, we're on part 2. You know it's good when it's 2 parts. We have Kokoro still in the state of distress we left her in, unsure about this whole Precure situation. And it's also interesting because I didn't think about how they would react as much, but the two of them are like, oh sweet, you're a cure, Puridoon's vouching for you, and she's like, no I'm not. They're like, whoa, okay. And she like very aggressively hands back the heart brooch to Puridoon. Like, I was like, whoa, I knew it was gonna happen, but it still hit. And just seeing the level of despair she's in, where she like very much clearly lays out, hey, I was like, yo, being an idol is cool, being a warrior, less so. And then she does the very Japanese like bow apology, like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And then runs off dramatically. Lots of tears this episode, which I love the way they handled tears. Oh, but I will get into that. We will unpack that later as we go down. But in other tear news, we have poor Puridoon, who I like that this happens. I like that she is self-reflective enough to be like, this was my fault. I jumped into this way too quickly. Like, I like that this is a character who's able to understand that she's like the rowdy, crazy character, but at the same time have the sense of awareness that, yo, maybe these actions were a little too actiony. I think it's very sweet that she has this level of self-reflection. But I also love that the way that they curve this is we actually, first of all, we have Tanaka being useful in an episode. Crazy. He genuinely says all he needs to, which is like, Puridoon, if you gave her the heart brooch, you had a good reason. You don't just do that very willy-nilly. Like, despite Puridoon's personality, I do think there's something to be said that Puridoon has some kind of logic and effort behind her actions. And her being like, yeah, she had super duper magical Kirara. She was like super duper sparkly. She couldn't possibly not be a cure. And Tanaka being like, yeah, Puridoon, you're correct. Like, I in a very, very weird way, Tanaka is like the perfect balance for Puridoon. Like, this is the textbook definition of a foil character, because Tanaka could not be any different from Puridoon. Like, any more different whatsoever. He is stoic, calm, cool, and collected, and Puridoon is just like a burst of emotions all over the place. And seeing him sit there and have this level-headed conversation and not have any sort of ill will towards Puridoon, like, I honestly think him being very patient and communicative with Puridoon is just nice to see. I feel like these kind of stoic, logical characters do not typically enjoy somebody like Puridoon in their presence, and to see them get along this way is just kind of refreshing. I feel like I don't see this type of archetype between two characters of these personality tropes, so I like it. I think they're using Tanaka well, because I was worried that this guy was just gonna kind of fade into nothingness. But you know what? If he says few words and all of the time that they are said, and all the words that he has said are useful, we can keep him. In the meantime, Kokoro is still going through her breakdown. But what I did like here is that the family knows it. And this leads into the point of the episode, which I almost am completely on board with, almost. But it puts on this narrative, which I think either it just is one for one a good translation to English, or very conveniently works with English, where she puts a lid on her heart. She bottles up her emotions and she bottles up her feelings, but with her name being Kokoro, which is heart, for those who don't know. Like, everything about her being, like, very heart-oriented. Having this whole thing where she puts a lid on her heart. She puts a lid on her emotions. I feel like the whole narrative there works very well for her character basis. Almost. There's one little thing, but I'll get to that later. But her mom being like, I don't think you're happy, and noticing that she's lying, it's nice that the people are aware of that in her life, but they have a hard time, you know, obviously communicating. We can't have them be the people who solve the problem. That's not how the show works. But nonetheless, she's like, no, Mom, I'm fine. It is what it is. And in one of the most heart-wrenching, like, there's several moments that really get me in this episode emotionally, but this really, really hit to see her, like, have this one negative experience basically sour an entire, like, obsession. I've definitely been there. I've definitely had things that I was super obsessed with, but I had one, like, really negative event in my life be like, I can't enjoy this thing anymore. And it's the worst feeling in the universe. And it hurts to see her put all of, like, she made all this merch. Like, she didn't end up buying any of this. She handmade all of these acrylics and everything, which is girl's next level. I don't know how she did that without a laser cutter. But she made all of this fan merch and she's putting in a box. Like, oh, and then she's, like, upset about it. She doesn't want to be, like, she doesn't want this to be something that she has almost, like, a triggering negative reaction to, but, like, it's so emotional. And then we kick the tear again, and it's just, this hurts so bad. And we flip-flop to another thing that I also think is so relatable. Like, I love how relatable, at least to me, that everything that goes down in this episode is. Because we have Puridoon and Uta wake up in the middle of the night and be like, nah, brah, we can do something about this. Them 100% being like, no, this is a problem that we can fix. And just wake up in the middle of the night. Wild. But also, there's absolutely been times where I'm like, I don't like the way things ended, and woken up in the middle of the night and been upset about it. What's unrealistic, though, is that they go back to bed. Can't relate. I would be up to that. Insomnia would be what I have received after that. In the meantime, we have Kokoro constantly trying to dance away her feelings, but also, like, skipping school, I think, in order to do this. Which is all the more wild that DDR boy comes in here, and he's like, yo, like, at first I was like, oh, he's here to, like, you know, have a heart-to-heart and, like, have a conversation and be relevant to the story. But then I thought about it and I was like, why does he know where she... Like, literally everyone else is trying to kind of figure out where she's at. And this guy just was like, yeah, I know this is your dance spot. I'm like, sir, have you been stalking her? Sir, this is concerning. I'm a little concerned at why you know where her secret dance location is. Nonetheless, the girls in the meantime head over to Kokoro's house in order to get some backstory stuff before they try to deal with the problem at hand. And we get the information that we kind of assumed from the previous episode, which is like, A, she's a big fan of Idol and Wink, we knew that, but also that her dad's dead. They drop that on there, and we're like, yeah, we know, now they know. But all that to lead up into the fact that, all this leading up to the fact that the grandma drops the bit where she's like, yeah, Kokoro has a bad habit of storing in all her feelings and pretending everything's okay, and then, like, you know, it's not healthy. Which is the piece of information they need to go confront Kokoro, who is going through. Even to the point where it's like, it's sad for her to say, normally, if I just dance away my problems, that usually gets rid of the emotions. On top of her being like, I can't even sing their songs without feeling sad, is... God, it's rough, it's emotional. But nonetheless, the two, now given the amount of information they needed, come to address Kokoro. For her to have these, like, not even quite friends yet, still kind of at acquaintance level people, sit there and tell her to cry it out. Just, you know, let those emotions go. It's not healthy to bottle it up. And, like, give her the space to kind of let it out is so sweet. And I feel like this is such a good lesson, too. Japan has not historically been known for be the best country when it comes to things like mental health and whatnot. So even in these smaller ways of, like, saying, like, having an episode dedicated to not containing everything you feel and trying to burden yourself with your own emotions, and, like, letting it out and allow yourself to have support from the people around you, it's nice. It's really nice to see that. I think this little bit of moment is super impactful for children. We get this sweet little, like, Puridoon who's trying to apologize and comfort her, because if anybody's gonna sit there and be like, I don't bottle up my emotions, it's Puridoon. And we have this, like, really, like, again with the tears. Graphically, for this entire episode, every usage of tears is so intentional. And I love this color blend they do, especially since, like, it goes to their, like, more saturated colors, because we know that Uta normally has brown hair, but she has this pink hair sequence, and then we have the bluer hair for Nana, but also, like, the tear with the upside down reflection and everything. It's just so well done. So pretty for, again, the emotional sequences. The animation is not only going to be stellar in this episode in terms of fight scenes, it's amazing for the things that are more mundane. It's there for the emotion, and it's so refreshing. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm super attached to things like Magical Girl series, because I think a lot of anime gets very obsessed with having good sakuga simply for fight scenes. And don't get me wrong, I love a well-animated fight scene. But I also love animators who care about emotions, who care about important sequences. There's so many anime where I can name the best moment of animation, coming down to a character like having an emotion, experiencing something intense, or like about to build into a big animated moment. There's just so many. Animation for mundane scenes matters to me. And then we see Kokoro be like, I had a good cry. We kind of skip, do a little mini time skip to her cheering up. And I love this sequence because, like, Uta does what she always does, and she does her little singy song thing trying to cheer everybody up. I like that people, like, maybe this is just the way to do it, because I'm trying to remember the name of the other anime. There was some anime I watched that was horrific with having just, like, random characters started singing, and the show just was weird about it. I can't remember if it was white noise or off noise or something along. It was terrible. But we have this moment where Uta breaks out into song, and we have Kokoro being like, you're cringy. Like, who does this? And Uta owns it. She has the confidence, and that goes to show you that it's only cringe if there's no confidence attached to it. It really comes down to how much you can own what you're doing, regardless of how goofy silly it is. I feel like the self-awareness with the combination of Uta being like, I'm just goofy silly, is great, but like, again, the rest of the characters are self-aware of it. We're not just acting like the way that Uta behaves is like super duper. And also it makes more sense because the characters, like, they feel like goofy silly, like, middle schoolers. That helps. Whatever other anime I watched, that was, oh, so bad. And we get to see it too in the characters. Kokoro is like, oh, she's really owning it. This is who Uta is. Like that. I like, just, it feels correct. It feels like it fits. It doesn't feel cringy when the story makes it part of the narrative. And then their other thing, I didn't even expect myself to really like this, but now that I think about it, the villains aren't simply just like people who are bullying the main characters as the villains do. They represent being terrible idol fans. Like, the way that they're talking about Kokoro not becoming a cure and her not being good enough to be a cure, their purpose is to be crappy idol fans. Like, listen, one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of idol anime or I don't get super deep into idol culture is because toxic idol fans are absolutely terrifying to me. Like, if there's anything that I was like, don't ever put me in an arena with because I will absolutely perish, one of them is toxic idol fans. They're crazy. They terrify me more than anything else. This is why I keep it at arm's length, because I'm like, I would engage, but you all scare me a little. That's these two. These two are crazy idol fans. And it's great too, because like, I feel like one of the trepidations I had with this season being an idol season is that I feel like idol culture and idol fan culture on a corporate side does lend itself to be more toxic and invasive and parasocial and stuff like that. I like that this show is at least having some way to show kids, hey, don't be this way. You see how these bad guys are being crappy idol fans and being like, at least in this case, just persnickety and stuff? These suck. Don't be like them. That's something. I like that. I enjoy that the, like, toxic fans are these guys. It adds more to them being villains other than just, like, we're opposition to the Precure. And then we have Miss Ma'am. Oh my god, I am terrified for when she enters the battlefield because every single thing that she said the whole series is so smart. She's like, you guys gotta stop underestimating this new girl who could potentially be a cure. You gotta nip everything in the bud. And that's the way a mastermind works. Only downside is that she hasn't been in the fight, but if she was in the fight, we'd have no cures on the field. She would have taken them all down. Let's be so for real right now. She's gonna be really intense when she finally hits the battlefield. And then we have this plant. I gotta give it to the villains one more time. This is such a smart evil villain plan, where he puts on a fake concert and then like shows the location and is like, yeah, this is a super special these two concert. He had me for a second. I was like, oh, I guess they're doing some rando concert. I guess they got another, like, brand deal. What's up with that? No, he sets up a whole stage, which, mind them, look at these posters. Look at the stage for a second. Like, some of the stage is impressive. Like, he's got he said graphic design is my passion, and he made some pamphlets, and he got a sign going and a whole stage. I love, though, I think what really gives it is like the crappily cut out images of the girls and they're like finish your dance move and like paste them on the back. That's hilarious. This is clever. I like it. Awesome. I like it. And then DDR Boy shows up. And at first I was like, why is DDR Boy there? He wasn't a fan. And I gotta give it to him. I don't know if he's gonna like escalate into anything else, but him being like, oh, I came because Kokoro is super into these guys. I was like, oh, so you're doing it for Kokoro. And then it's like, I bet this is how she gets all her inspiring dance moves. Maybe I'll be inspired to dance like her. I like my boy with one-track mind. He said dance is life, and he was on about that. And he was so much passionate about dance is life that he became the villain of the week. Congratulations. And we get to another thing that I like about this episode. I like that this is how Kokoro reaches her cure form. I wasn't sure how they would approach, like, you know, clearly in the last battle, nothing was going on that was really choosing that fight versus flight situation. She was definitely leaning in the flight direction. But seeing the stage that this guy made that was supposed to be the cures, and then seeing all these people who came to be idol fans, and for it to all be a trap, all of it to be a joke, all of it be this nefarious thing, that's like the perfect, like, this is brilliant on being the one thing that would trigger her into being like, this is the most horrible thing you could do. Like, you can't sit there and, like, create a fake idol scenario for the #1 idol fan. Oof, it's good. That's how, that would get her. Now, this is the one thing I disagree with this episode. The one thing I don't find completely and utterly convincing for this is that while there is some degree of her bottling up a lot of her emotion, I wouldn't say that fear is necessarily an emotion that you bottled up. I think this is the only thing where I was like, it doesn't quite make sense, but I like it too much to be really mad. Is that she's like, I'm scared, and she's like, no, I mustn't bottle up my emotions. And I was like, pretending you're not scared is bottling up your emotions, honey. Like, you being scared of a big scary monster is super for real. Like, that's a pretty justified reason to be like, I'm not into it. I think she bottled up other emotions and ran away, but fear was not the emotion that was being bottled up. I think fear was winning. I think fear was being very portrayed. I think that was very much apparent. But whatever, go off, queen. We want a good episode. We ignore it. And we just get, just Sakuga after Sakuga after Sakuga. It's so good. And of course, we get our little reborn. I do have one nitpick. I take it back. I do have one nitpick. I do not know why they keep blocking the faces for some of these. Like, the fact that one of her eyes is obscured by the heart brooch in this scene, I don't know why they keep doing that. It, like, makes it a slightly unappealing screenshot. I'm used to them, like, having their face not covered when they do this. This is, like, I don't know, because, like, I know a lot of these episodes have, like, lead and veteran animators on the project, but who let the heart brooch block her face? Like, scoot her arm to the right a little bit. This is not good. It's like some animation 101 mistakes. I don't know why they keep doing it. Ignoring all that, we go right into the transformation. And I will say real quick, and I don't think this is just specifically for her, but for a couple of the cures, someone on Twitter pointed out something that I 100% agree with that I actually realized I didn't like, was that I prefer when the hair is the last aspect of the transformation to change. I love seeing them in either glowing hair or civilian hair, get the full outfit, and the hair and usually like the hair accessories or hats come on last. I do think I prefer that. I think that's one of the things about this transformation I didn't really care for. But nonetheless, what we do get of the hair is quite satisfying. Like, I love me a good magical sparkly hair transformation moment. I love how we have the lines. I like that the lines are uneven, like certain aspects of the lines are glowing. Ooh, it's so and then we get her funky monkey little shaped hair, which is just so magical, girl. It's just such a, I don't know how to explain it any other way than it's just magical, girl. Now, one thing I will say about the transformation, I think this is a personal nitpick, I do not think this is like a general thing. I found that taking screenshots of the transformation is better than watching. I can't tell you why. Like, they put so much heart and soul into every singular frame, but when you watch it all back at the same time, it feels like the flow of the transformation is just kind of okay. It doesn't feel like it's the best transformation by a mile. I think it's just personal preference, but god, is every screenshot look very good. Like, every little moment of the transformation looks incredibly cute. I also like, there's so many things. This is why I highly recommend you go frame by frame for any of these transformations. Like, the special effects that they do are so interesting. Like, we got this little bunny glob thing that goes in there, which I don't think has too much relevance other than her hair's kind of bunny-ish. There's not a lot of bunny stuff. It's mostly, like, her main attribute is a teardrop, which, one of my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. And we see it a lot throughout the transformation. The bow is incredibly satisfying as it comes on, and it's got that kind of winged bow look that's very a la, like, Cardcaptor Sakura that I love a lot. We have, just again, so many shots in here look so pretty. And I love me an earring shot. I love me when we get, like, they slightly turn their head, and we get the little beep, like a little light sound effect. Ooh, I love it. It's so satisfying. And then her, like, slapping the brooch on. I don't know what it is about the way she slaps it in this transformation compared to everybody else who normally, like, slaps on their brooch or, like, pats it onto their hip. This one was just kind of satisfying. I don't know. It was an ASMR moment. I was just like, beep! I liked it. And then again, she's just, like, so happy. Maybe the transformation was too fast. Like, she just put the whole dress on. Like, we didn't get a layer of the top or the bottom. Maybe that's why I don't like it? No. It felt like... No, I don't know why I didn't like it as a whole, but man, this is so pretty. Like, look at that. Look at her face. Look how they did the hands. Even the shadows on the hands are well thought out. Ugh. And this! She does this whole, like, little spin around kind of bit, like, borderline pirouette. And even this shot of her just, like, in the middle of the spin where you think you'd see a lot of in-betweeners and stuff. She looks magnificent. Look at her. And, like, the sass. The sass. I love it. And then she does this pose at the end. And I'm trying to remember what character it reminds me of. Kind of reminds me of, like, how Muse at the very end does her, like, step, and then has her two hands up to her chin and goes deep. And then, of course, we get the dark background, which is always satisfying. And I love, like, her little rim. And we see so many of the teardrops. But I also like that they do this dual teardrop where it's, like, it's got the blue and the purple in it. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a flame or maybe a chili pepper. I don't know. I like it. We've got some of, like, the little music notes and stuff. Little treble clef. I'm into it. I'm vibing with this. And, of course, we have that moment where your main Kira is like, whoa. So cool. So cool to see the birth of a new Kira. And then we have this hand moment that's very reminiscent of the opening. I liked that. I liked the little detail. I have to go back and check if the others did this too, because there's usually some kind of, like, reach your hand to the sky and then the sunlight shines down on you. Kira Sunshine did it as well. But I wonder if all of them did it and I just haven't been paying attention. Nonetheless, we get right into the Sakuga. Unlike the transformation, there's not super great screenshots, so a lot of this I'll just put in little tidbits of footage. So we can really see just how good this fight goes. Which I am concerned, because I feel like this is the only time we see a lot of good fighting. Hopefully we'll keep that for the rest of the season. But I know that they went all out for the staff on this episode, so we'll enjoy it for what it is now. And she also does another, like, we get another beautiful kick. I love a good kick. And she just looks so cute afterwards. Ah, look at her. She's such a precious bean. Instead of bean, let's talk about beam. I don't know if I love... First of all, the stock footage for this, attack is kind of lame, I'm not gonna lie. But also, it's a beam attack. I feel like most beam attacks in Precure are kind of subpar. And I feel like it's gonna be similar. Like, maybe this is my version of shields. I know most people hate shields. I feel like with the shields, you can get creative if you want to. The beam, you just kind of stand a distance away and you go beam and it's like beam. I don't love beam. They're not really my favorite attacks. I feel like they get a little bit lazy. In fact, the smoke effect, like this billowing smoke effect that lasted longer than I thought, looked so good. And I was like, the smoke of the attack is looking better than the attack itself. But also, I love a little good smoke effect. Kind of a little animation nerd. Nonetheless, we have this, which again, I feel like, why is this stuff blocking the face? Like, I should see the full silhouette of her face without all of this, like, but they just need to, like, I get that they're putting on the headset, but, like, scoot the effects to the right, just make it uneven and wide on the right side so I can see her face. And then her dance was kind of, like, a bit underwhelming. Maybe I got overhyped because they released her song a week early, and first of all, the graphic design for her music video is phenomenal. I think it's my favorite of the three. And just the song was super good, but the dance is kind of like, you know, for the dance characters, it was kind of underwhelming. She does a lot of, like, very repetitive dance moves, and it's just like, yay, and I'm like, I don't know, I was kind of expecting maybe a little bit more of her personality in this, because it's just like, jump, wave hand, and I was like, your choreography when you were standing there and jumping and dancing in front of the building was better than this. Not my favorite, but she looks cute, so, you know, you get a pass for being cute. And she does her little adorable heart attack, which I don't know if I'm super in love with this, like, hand heart pose above her head, but it fits her character. I feel like some seasons we just kind of run out of poses that we can utilize, and sometimes they're like, let's just recycle our best poses, and I was like, that's a good idea. Other seasons, they're like, we gotta be funky. We gotta do something different with our poses, and I'm like, have to. But at least for this one, it has a narrative. She's making a heart with her arms, and that she's a Koko, so, like, you know, it works, whatever. And then she has this interesting moment where she talks to DDR boy again, and he like realizes that she looks like Kyunkyun, which was interesting. I wonder if they did that because we're gonna be seeing more of this boy. I don't know if we've seen enough of this silly little guy. Like they really hyped up Kaito as being a character that was gonna be like kind of more prevalent than most. But DDR boy feels like he's picking up what we're putting down. Maybe this was just one of those like emotional, like let's throw in something at the end of the episode make it special. It's been her like debut. I don't know, but I was like, dang, the DDR boy feels relevant. And then she also like humored the idea earlier when she was sad depressed of joining the dance club, which I think she should join the dance club all things considered. But she ultimately declines, which is interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how the idol fan club group is going to persist through the series. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see how they handle that. But then again, they could shill more merch through that, I'm sure. And then she says something I had no idea girl was about to say. She went off. She's like, not only am I going to be an idol alongside you guys while still being your biggest fan, I'm gonna surpass you. Like, girl threw down a gauntlet. I was like, wow, we went from zero confidence to a lot. That's interesting. I don't know if that's gonna be relevant for the rest of the series. We'll see. But I was like, oh, Miss Ma'am came out with some confidence. And then she ends on this really cute photo where we get kind of like this more like they love to end on these images that look like they're paintings, which is a cute way to end this episode. I think the two-parter was worth it. I think her debut has been fantastic. I really like how they handled it. But I'm also wondering, I think there's enough going on with her character and she has a loud enough personality that they can do more with her as we move forward. But similar to other characters we've had in the past, she had such a bombastic introduction that I'm worried that we're just gonna kind of move on. But like she also kind of went through the same thing that Wink did, which was like, I have no confidence. Now I have confidence. Like I'm curious how they're going to handle her character episodes. But also I feel like there's enough that we've got potential. We've got directions. So I'll hold out to see what Toei Animation has in store for us with Widow. But otherwise, this has been fantastic. I had an enjoyable time. And that's it for now. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye!